guys, Betsy here with Unique Paper 15. Thanks so much for stopping by today. Today's video is a card that I made on Instagram that a few people wanted to see the video of. It is a Richard Garay Origami Fun stamp set and die. And I'm going to be doing some really cool paper piecing with some Heidi Swap laser cut paper, which I'll show you. So to get started, I take the origami elephant and I'm just going to use a regular stamp block and some Memento Tuxedo black ink, and I'm going to stamp it on Bristol paper. I use the Bristol paper because it holds more ink. I feel better than my Nina because I'm going to be adding a significant amount of ink and water to this. So I go ahead and I get my elephant all stamped up. And I want to make sure I really get him inked up because it's not the Misty, and I want to make sure I get him one time. So a nice impression there, and he's perfect. Thank God. So I always stamp a couple just to make sure one's not better than the other. It gives me options of which ones to color. And a third. So I really am giving myself options now, but I usually only do two. I'm going to go ahead and clean my stamp off there. And now I'm going to choose the elephant that I want to color. I'm going to pick out some teal, Copic, and Prismacolor markers, and I'll link all that in the description, but you can use any of the teal colors that you'd like. So I start off with one of my darker teal markers, and what I'm doing is I'm acting like my light source is coming from the top right, so that it's very easy to put the darkest colors in every corner, because the way the stamp was designed is that there are so many lines and corners, so it makes it so easy for you to know where to put the shadow. So as long as you hit the right corner or along the right line, you're going to be fine. So I just put in what I consider is one of my darker teal markers. I'm doing basic flicks. Nothing special here. I want this to look like rough paper. So now I'm going with, I believe this is my BO2 robin's egg, and I want to add a hint of blue along that edge to give it a little bit of gradient to make it look darker to lighter. And so I'm just hitting the exact same areas but with fewer flicks, if that makes sense. So not as much as I did the first color, but just a little bit to give that shadow. And it actually comes together quite quick because there's, I think, only like 8 or 9 compartments. So now I'm coming in with one of my lighter ones. I believe this is my BG11. And now I'm going to do longer flicks. And it's going to drag those two first colors down into the area that I'm trying to fill up there. I'm going to leave white in each area to make it look like it's that truly, bent origami kind of shape there. So you can see I'm just coloring each shape, basic shading here, nothing tricky. So now I'm going to go to my lightest color, which is my BG10, and I'm just going to finish. This is my last color I'm going to use here. I might come in with a darker color at the end. I have to see. I think I do in a few areas, but you get the drift. Just filling in and dragging those first 3 colors into each other to make a nice blend. And you can kind of see that gradient now, darker to lighter. And I know that we normally go light to dark, but this is kind of the result when you go dark to light instead of light to dark. Okay, now this is a different color. This is that mint green I told you guys about. That's a really good balance for your BG11, BG10. It's almost like a middle color, and it gives it more of a green hint. It's very, very light, and it doesn't distract or interfere with your image. It just gives a nice blend kind of color. So now I'm going to go ahead and fussy cut them out. I'm happy with these colors. And we're going to add some more colors at the end with the Spectrum Noir sparkle markers. So just some simple fussy cutting. He's very easy to cut because he's just straight lines. So didn't have any problems with that. Almost done. And I guess I could have used a die. That was really silly of me. But I fussy cut them anyways. Sometimes I forget I have the dies to these stamps. So again, I take a background piece of paper. Now this is my Canson, I believe it's 120-pound watercolor paper. And I just make a nice base for him. I don't want it to be too large because I'm gonna have background paper, and there it is. A nice teal base. Now here's the laser cut Heidi Swapp paper. I choose this hexagon, kind of what I think is origami-esque. It reminds me of the elephant, and you'll see here in a second why. It's got these shapes that remind me of this elephant because there's so many angles. So I line it up with that background piece, and I make cut marks where that white piece of paper ends. And I'm just going to trim that size out, but I don't want this laser cut the same size as my background. I'm going to cut a circle out, and you'll see why here. I'm choosing which circle size I want. I've decided. Now I'm just going to go ahead and cut that circle out of that laser cut paper, and I know where I want it because the elephant's going to kind of sit in that voided circle. I will save this cutout for later. This laser cut paper is so nice to embellish your cards with. So see, I want it to go almost to the edge of that card. So I'm just simply going to cut through the laser cut paper there where I want it to end. And it may not be making sense to you yet, but it will. So now I decide I want to do some ink smushing. So I'm just going to take this watercolor paper, put a few spritz of water, and I'm going to start off with my cracked pistachio. Just dab a few, pads of the cracked pistachio, spray it with a little bit of water, and then, smush it together to get that ink to move around. And I'm just randomly going to place it on this paper. There's no science to this. I have no idea how it's going to turn out. So that's kind of what I like, is that it's just truly organic and it's going to land where it lands. So now I'm going to wipe off my mat, and I'm going to go to the next color, which is going to be Salty Ocean. I'm going to go ahead and do the exact same thing, but I don't need as much water, and it's going to blend even better because the paper is already wet. Now my Mermaid Lagoon. I love this ink. It just can do no wrong. So that's my darkest. So this one I did go light to dark. So now you see I have different kinds, and I go back to the cracked pistachio because I felt like I lost some of that teal, that greenish color to accent the elephant. So I just add a little bit on there, and I'm happy, and I'm going to go and grab my heat tool, and I'm going to dry it. I know it's better when it dries on its own, but for this video I just wanted to go ahead and make sure I get it nice and dry. And I'm going to straighten it out because it gets a little warped when you dry it with the heat tool. Now back to the background teal paper. I'm literally just going to cut it down to have a thin border on the outside of this white watercolor piece that we just ink smushed until I'm happy with the border size. Looks good. Trim up the frays. I don't like frays. Measure it up there, and I'm happy with the size. Now the laser cut paper. You're gonna see why I cut it so funky. I'm gonna take some of my 3M adhesive, and I'm gonna pop up the edges. You see it's got a white border there, so it's not going to show through. I'm gonna cut another thin piece and just hit those white borders. Now I'm gonna need more adhesive, so it's gonna have to go on the bottom there where it's gonna show through, but I'll show you how we get around that in a second. So I'm gonna go ahead and peel off the back side there and adhere it to that watercolor paper. And it's gonna fit perfect because we cut it to that size. So I measure it up, adhere the left, then the right. Now obviously we can see that adhesive through that laser cut paper, so I'll show you the solution. We're going to put it on that teal background until we're happy with the edge. Boom. Looks good. fixing some of the adhesive. Now, this silver glitter tape from Little B, it's very thin. I'm going to take just the size I need, and I'm going to cover up that adhesive just to the end of that origami laser cut paper. Now, I'm measuring up my elephant to where I know he'll fit and I can still put a sentiment. Now I'm picking out my sentiment from Avery Owl, and I end up going with "You made my day," and then I use the accent word that says truly. So it says, "You truly made my day." And you'll see here, I'm just going to take my stamp block again, and I'm going to use some black VersaMark ink, VersaFine ink, and I'm just going to eye it and stamp it right there along the edge. Now I need to use the accent word truly again, and get up with the VersaFine and hit it right after "you." So "You truly made my day." Now I'm going to come out with the Spectrum Noir sparkle marker, and that's Stickles, silver Stickles. We'll use that in a second. So I'm going to choose this one. I think it's called Moonlight. It's a teal type of color, but it's very light. Now I'm going to go over everywhere where I colored the teal alcohol markers. And I'm not doing it very heavy because I don't want to alter the color. I just want to bring some sparkle to the teal areas. And you'll see here, it actually makes it blend a little nicer. It's very nice. So I'm just hitting those teal areas. Like I said, not too heavy, but now you understand why I chose the Bristol paper. So now I'm going to the clear, the transparent, and I'm hitting anywhere where there's white paper, just so that the whole thing has a little bit of sparkle. Because you know, it's like just plain origami paper. I want to give it some sparkle. So now I decide I want to, here we go, I'll show you what I'm doing here. I want to make another hat. I have already made one little paper boat hat, but now I want to make another one that's more like my unique paper logo, but I want to see if I can make it small enough to fit on this card. So that's what I'm doing here. So I'm making a little paper boat hat, just like we all did in elementary school. And I could have stopped here, which is the paper boat hat on the right there. But if you pull it out, it actually makes the boat, which is my logo. But I felt that it was a little too large for this card, so I went with the smaller first paper hat that I made. So this one's more appropriate for this card. So I'm going to take my Thermoweb iCraft glue, which I love, and just adhere the little paper hat, boat, whatever you want to call it, there at the edge to cover up that gap. Now I'm going to put some foam tape under that laser cut paper where the elephant's going to sit on it, so it props it up. And I take my Copic multi-liner here, and I just want to darken those black lines that the artist gave us, because they do get a little muted with all the sparkle and the alcohol markers. They're just not as crisp as I would like them to be. And also, this ends up giving it what looks like a little more shadow or definition. So if you guys do have this stamp or a stamp like it, that is a really good tip. It makes a lot of difference. So almost done. Just using my straight edge there. That's actually, I think, from my my heat tool, that pocket sealer thing. I forget the name of it, but that ruler is so handy. Okay, he's about all trimmed up there. Okay, so now I see where I want to adhere him. I'm going to put some foam tape on top of him, more towards the front of him versus the back, because the back we have that origami paper. So put some glue on his backside, foam on the front, and pop him on. I'm just making sure that he's all adhered. And now I realized I didn't take off the back side of the foam. So there. Now he's ready to go. I put my tweezers underneath because I'm trying to make him dry against that origami paper. I was actually pinching them together. So now I'm taking some stickle drops and I'm making him look like he's blowing glittered bubbles to the top out of his trunk. I'm taking a look at them, making sure there's nothing else I need to add. I'm pretty happy with them. This is the card. I'm going to give you a picture here. It really was a fun card to make and kind of unique if you ask me. He's definitely one of my favorites. Again, this is the Richard Gray Origami Love. Really cute set. Alright guys, I hope you liked the card. If you did, I'd really enjoy it if you'd give me a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're not already, and share this with a friend. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.